What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Sanchez 405 coming at you. It's on the Warpath, y'all. If you're new to the channel, make sure you click the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notifications anytime there's new content posted to the channel. And as always, like, comment, and share this video out as you can, because guess what, y'all? I told y'all. I said we're going to have a special guest on here. It's been a week in the making or so, but we have the man himself. Big Doug McCray is here from the Big Douglas Show podcast, and he's on Twitter, active on Twitter. He's also here on YouTube, and he is the master interviewer. Doug, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come and talk some shop about the football team.
Corey, thanks for having me on, man. I got turned on to you a couple of weeks ago, and man, you do some nice stuff. So I'm honored to be on the show.
I appreciate you, and likewise, my friend. So I'll jump right into it, man. So, you know, this team has been through a whirlwind over the last, well, we want to say the last 13 months or so. Not really that long, but we'll say about the last 8 months. And most recently, it's been the front office shakeup and everything like that. So tell me what you think about the hirings of Martin and Martin, and you know, Kyle Smith's future with the football team.
Well, the Kyle Smith thing was interesting. It was confusing to a lot of people. You would assume that when Ron took the job, he said in those early interviews that he took the job because there was a lot of talent on the team. And if you give Kyle Smith credit for at least the last 2 drafts, it's produced a lot of winners. So I understand from the fan base why they'd be worried, concerned that another young talent slips out of the building. But I don't know. If we're in Ron we trust mode, right? Then we'll just give him the benefit of the doubt for now and keep our fingers crossed that Eric Stokes, who by the way got an interview in-house before Kyle Smith did, you know, that we'll assume that he knows what he's doing until he proves that he doesn't know what he's doing, and then we'll curse him.
Right. Well, that's the very Washington thing to do. But you bring up a good point about the general manager interview with Eric Stokes. I'm not discrediting Kyle Smith when I say this, but there were about 7 GM opportunities for him to just interview with, and nobody picked up the phone and said, "Hey, Kyle, come on there." So,
Corey, that's a great point.
Yeah,
great point.
And I think it's a dichotomy there too. You can be a good draft or talent evaluator. It takes more to be a general manager than just drafting talent and bringing in free agencies.
That's right. Well, there's no doubt about that. And the other thing about Kyle that people I think forget is he just got a promotion
right
when Ron got here, right? I mean, a significant promotion. And again, I don't know. We had Ben Standing on the other day. I tried to get him to tell us if there was a moment during the season where it fell apart, because there was a moment during the season where it obviously switched. You can go back to when Ron first took the job. Him and Kyle were taking all of those interviews together. I mean, It was Kyle out front. So there has to be a time when things went south. Nobody will cop to when that was, but obviously it happened.
Yeah, I think of that time when Rhiannon Walker asked that question.
That's right.
About it, and someone else you've had on there. But he was like, and Ron, he doesn't stray away. And I think he had to learn this about that DC media to begin with. Like, don't give them more than what they're asking for. But he kind of put it on Pete Hainer and everything with Logan Thomas and stuff, and other things, and what Kyle was doing. So I thought that was interesting. In this move, it doesn't surprise me, to be honest with you. And maybe, you know, it's the old guard. A lot of these people who were fired in June worked with Kyle Smith. I'm not attacking his character or anything like that, but maybe there's a sense that, you're guilty by maybe knowing more things were going on than what you let on. And maybe Ron won't stand for that. We know what type of man Ron is. And, but we've seen since Dwayne Haskins was benched that Ron can be the author of confusion.
Yeah, and he's told us as much, right?
Yeah.
Because he said that out loud. And what I say in the locker room, when I tell you guys outside of the locker room, two totally different things. So
yeah,
no doubt about that. And and he has certainly ushered everybody from the old regime out at this point. And to your point, Corey, that could be all that it was that Kyle did a great job of helping transition Ron in, and he liked the work that he did, but he just wasn't going to keep anybody from that anybody that had ties to the way Dan Snyder used to be is out.
Right.
And now whether that's actually truth or not, I don't know, but it seems reasonable for sure.
And so we talk about the moves now. Martin Mayhew, former Detroit Lion general manager, was in San Francisco the last couple of years with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And then Ron gets his old boss in the fray, Marty Hurney. So I'll ask you this about Hurney. We'll go with Hurney first. What was your thoughts about? Were there any red flags that came up in this hire? Because Ron's the boss now, Marty's not, and I think whatever he was responsible in Carolina, he's not going to be responsible for in Washington, because I don't think Ron's going to let that be like the cap situation that they had gotten into.
Well, I think the way to look at this is, what is it, the Men in Black line, where Will Smith says, old and busted and hot newness. I mean, nobody wants the old guy. I think that's why people are upset that Kyle Smith's kind of being ushered out, because we've seen that happen. From what I'm told, Marty Hurney is a guy that will sit in front of the camera and take the bullets. I think Ron realized that doing that all by himself this year was more maybe than he had realized, particularly once the cancer hit, which is reasonable. So I think what we'll find with Marty Hurney is that he's more like the consigliere to the Don, if you will, and will just kind of help him navigate the entire thing, and which would leave Mayhew in more of the traditional general manager role. But as several people that follow the team and have much greater access than I certainly have, has said it really doesn't matter too much, because in the end, they all go to Ron, and Ron makes all the final decisions. So it's something that we're trying to figure out, I think, because it's new for us. It's not something that this organization has ever done before, really.
Yeah, and thinking about this whole season from start to finish, the mixed messaging, it doesn't matter what he was given to the media. In that locker room, everything seemed to be consistent. I think that's why you can see this team got together once Alex started taking over and everything, because they had a leader. They had that leader as a coach, and then they had it on the field as your field general and everything. So this is something we weren't used to. We were used to people spilling beans. I'll never forget JP Finley had a report but after the Dallas game in 2018, at the end of the season, they were like, "Oh, the defense is too hard." Like, we don't hear those leaks coming out, and it could be because of COVID. Like Ben said on your show, they don't really have that access, which I thought was odd, because I thought maybe if you have their number, you could just send them a message and be like, "Hey, this is what I know."
Yeah, I think it's more that when those guys had the access to the building, you could bump into guys. It's easier to grab a guy coming off the practice field and say, "Hey, give me 3 minutes," than it is, to his point. I think now you've actually got to call the PR for the team, and it's a much different process now than it has been, certainly, and that's across the league. You hear that from guys all from every team across the league.
And then talking about Mayhew, which I think this was an interesting hire. it kind of reeks of Scott Brooks getting hired with the Wizards to get Kevin Durant. So I don't know how you feel about that, but talk about what you think about Mayhew, the former Redskin Super Bowl champion, coming back to DC.
Yep. Yeah, he played opposite Darryl Green, if I recall correctly. They hired him before the news that Stafford became available. So I get how that is easy to draw the line, but I don't think that's it. People will give Mayhew a hard time because he was on the Detroit Lions team that didn't do a whole lot of winning. But if I recall correctly, he took over after the 0-16 team. So you talk about a complete rebuild. That was it. It's hard to get guys to go up to Detroit and play because they want to. I remember they got, he's the one that brought Reggie Bush when nobody wanted to go to Detroit.
That's right. Yep.
So I don't know. I think he went out to San Francisco and was given the credit for bringing in the free agents that helped them get to that title win. And then he got a bump and a promotion out there. So by all accounts, he went out there and kind of did his work and reshaped his image. So I dig it. I'm always this way, and I guess it's easier to say than done. When you get guys of color in, ladies of color in, that's a good thing. I'm hoping that we're always hiring because they're the most qualified. And by all accounts, Martin put in his dues out there and reshaped his image and his reputation. So I'm hopeful. And again, as long as we're giving it Ron we trust for at least the foreseeable future, they kind of got some equity built up.
Absolutely. And I think the first mark of this new front office will be to identify who is the quarterback going into 2021. Now we saw Heineke, who played really well against the Bucks. So that's my next question is, talk about what you saw in that playoff game from Heineke. Is he the guy that can possibly start from this team, or we need to pump the brakes a little bit and say, hey, let's look at this from a whole picture?
Taylor Heineke had 5 of the greatest quarters of football I've ever seen as a Washington football team fan. Do I want him starting for the Washington football team next year? No, I don't. I wouldn't say that at all. I don't think so. I mean, it's a 5'11", 205-pound quarterback that was doing advanced numbers at ODU, and I think that's great. And he's obviously a smart guy. He had the playbook down. What I appreciate about Taylor Heineke is he showed you what the playbook can do when it's ran effectively. That doesn't mean that he can do it for 16 games next year. I would suggest that the Kurt Warners of the world are movies made about him because they're the Kurt Warners of the world. It doesn't happen very often. I think he got a better chance of Kyle Allen, right? I mean, Ron was asked specifically, to your point, by JP, I think, what they felt like, Alex was the only one that could get him to the playoffs. And Ron said, no, I think if Kyle Allen had played the whole time, he could have got us to the playoffs. And I think him and Scott believe that. I do think that. Now, again, do I think that's who they plan on rolling out week one? I think they'll be aggressive in free agency and hope to not have Kyle Allen be the presumed starter going into training camp. I'll tell you that much.
So, and with that, so those are our two quarterbacks. I don't know. We don't really know what Alex is going to do yet. But so if Alex isn't in the picture, I want you to give me 3 quarterbacks that you would target. I want you to give me your dream one, a reasonable one, and the one that I'm just not going to touch at all.
I mean, I think you have to do everything you can to get Deshaun Watson, including trading multiple first rounders. I've been suggesting 3 first rounders, a couple of thirds, and say Matt Ioannidis, because at some point you've got too many D tackles, you can't pay them all. So in any deal I make for quarterback, I'm hoping to be able to unload a D tackle not named Deron Payne. Basically, so I think that's where I start. I mean, that's the dream. I think Stafford is more realistic with something like a first this year and and Ioannidis and say a third next year.
Okay.
And then I frankly think it's much more realistic to have a Jameis Winston or a Marcus Mariota. I mean, that seems like there's going to be a lot of teams in on Matthew Stafford. Okay. And if I were the Lions, I'd love to send them the Colts and get them out of the NFC.
Yeah. And that's a rumor too.
So, I mean, that's where supposedly 49ers are first on his list. And so I don't know. It's an interesting time for free agent quarterbacks. I can't ever recall when there were more guys set to hit the market. Because again, you're going to be looking at guys like Cam Newton, which is a hard pass for me. Guys like Jimmy Garoppolo, which is a fairly hard pass for me. Brissett will be available. If the Rams are going to make a big move for quarterback, then I guess Jared Goff is available. I'd say Sam Darnold is available, right? If you believe they're going to be drafting quarterback at 2. So it's just a really Marcus Mariota, I think, for those that like him, I think he ought to be available. It's a weird year. And that, by the way, I guess the dream scenario, if you really push me on it, is Dak, right? I would take Dak Prescott immediately and walk to the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, Dak. I have a lot of Cowboy fans that come on the live stream sometime, and they're like, "You're not getting Dak," but I said, "If we do, I'm laughing the whole time."
Right. I mean, and the Cowboys are in that position, right, where they are, they don't expect to be drafting where they are very often. So maybe this is where they make a push, and they're not worried about paying $30 million to quarterback anymore. They can take one in the first round.
Yeah. That, and I kind of go back to the future. I go back to the past a little bit. And this 2020 season, I don't think, if somebody had told me this on a script and said this was going to happen in an NFL with an NFL team, the coach gets cancer, the quarterback who almost died is going to lead them to the postseason. You're going to cut your rookie your second year quarterback that you took a first round pick on. Like what? Just talk about the emotions from you as a fan on this 2020 roller coaster. Like where did you see? And where did the season change for you? Where it was like, okay, we're in the right direction. This is, I'm all in.
Well, you make a great point. There's a whole lot of them to choose from. Certainly, this is the wildest, greatest 7-9 season ever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you thought we'd have won 10 games and we're rocking and rolling, but really, when coach said they had a plan and they benched the quarterback. And they went to Alex Smith. And again, the record for Alex Smith in Washington is unbelievable. Whether you think it's because he was some world beater or not, the numbers are what it are. And they won a lot of games when he was the starting quarterback. And you could tell, and I think you mentioned this earlier, that the players just felt rejuvenated when Alex started playing quarterback. And whether that's because he just understood how to operate the offense better. But yeah, I mean, I've said this a couple times. This is one of the easiest teams to root for, right? I mean, to your point, the coach is battling cancer. You've got this young defensive lineman that they draft that the league apparently is in love with. I mean, when's the last time we had a guy that the league was in love with? I mean, really. Yeah. When's the last time there was a handful of Washington players that the rest of the league was kind of into? You got Terry McLaurin that the league is into, and Alex Smith and Chase Young and Montez Sweat, came up big this year, and there was a lot to be excited about. And I really think once the defense started putting it together, and really you saw guys like Cam Curl stepping up, and I think that's what it was. There's just so much to be excited about because really when you drop Kerrigan off the roster and you drop Alex Smith off the roster, this becomes like the third youngest roster in the league. And I think that's when they really started rocking and rolling, and you could tell Chase wasn't healthy early. I think when he when that hamstring got healthy again, and you could see some of the explosiveness come back. I just think that, they were exciting to watch down the stretch.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, this team, into your point, I mean, as much as we herald 21 in his greatness, let's be honest, anybody alive around that time that was watching this team, they loved him for a Pro Bowl hit. That was about it. But he wasn't like, oh, we love Sean Taylor. We love Sean Taylor. We just had dudes. And if you had told me this 2 years ago that this team was going to be one of the most lovable teams in the NFL outside of the quarterback,
That's right.
and who's still owning the team,
Yep.
like you could have told me this in July when the Washington Post articles came out.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Corey, I said this the other day. They went from being dinosaurs to one of the most progressive franchises in the league.
yes,
From pulling the scouts off, they were the first team to pull the scouts off when COVID hit. First one to open up their stadium for voting. You've got, a minority head coach, a minority VP of business, got a woman at the VP of media and relations. The next under her is a black man named Marcus Stevens, who does great work. I mean, it's just, again, to think of where we were, to your point, just 9 months ago when Ron Rivera took the job, to where we are now, it is incredible.
It's man, I don't know. I just get giddy when I think about it. It's crazy. So with that being said, the NFL honors are next week, and I'm going to do the Washington honors here with you. So I'll give you 4 categories: your MVP, your most improved player, your unsung hero. So that can be your biggest surprise, and also your dud, who was the biggest disappointment.
Well, let's get the dud out of the way. For me, it was Landon Collins. I mean, he makes a lot of money, and it wasn't until the game that he got injured, really, that we saw him play to an all-pro level. I mean, when they signed him, and again, that all regime signed him, this is not new news, but they brought him in here after an all-pro season, and he hadn't come close to it. He certainly wasn't coming close to it this year. So I hate to say about that, the man, because he got hurt this year, but that's where I'd go the dud. The surprise pick, I think it's not a surprise, but it is a surprise. 2 years in a row for 97, the big D tackle. He keeps getting better and better. And it's one of the reasons why I said I'd be including a D tackle, because the Penguins been great.
Oh,
So,
Big Tim.
Yeah, Big Timmy Settle. That means he was fantastic.
Manassas boy. I'm from Prince William County originally, so I'm in love with him just because he went to Stonewall Jackson and everything. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Prince William County in the house.
Yeah.
And then there were 4. That's 2. What's the third one?
Your unsung hero.
The unsung hero. Oh, that's a good one. I think Darby maybe is the unsung hero. But I had zero expectations for Darby. In fact, before the season started, I was positive it was going to be Fabian Moreau. And he just couldn't get himself on the field. And they asked Ron about it. He said, well, because he got outplayed. I mean, it was just that simple. And he stayed healthy. And you got to give him a contract, right? I mean, you've got to re-sign Darby. Corners get beat. People were very upset Darby gave up 3 big plays all season. Modern NFL cornerbacks give up big plays. It's just how it works. So he was great. I think I'd give the unsung hero to Darby. And then I don't know. I toss it up between Chase Young and Alex Smith, I guess, between who the MVP was. I think both of them served the same way. I think people loved playing for Alex. And I think when Chase got here talking about who were dudes and who weren't dudes, that, they just changed the dynamic of the franchise for sure.
Yeah, to your point about Chase, man, I loved what he said. He's like, I want Tom Brady. And I said, we know what Tom Brady is. Why don't you want a guy who has that drive, that motor that says, I want to get the best. I want to get after the best. And
Corey, if it wasn't a guy like that, I mean, think about this, to your point. Chase Young goes out there talking about he wants Tom Brady, and nobody was upset about that.
Right.
Nobody said, what a jerk or what an arrogant prick. None of that. It was like, listen, the young kid's full of ambition and we love it.
Yeah.
So I think that says more about him than anything.
He can't. I mean, yeah, he is the ultimate dude. So, I'll go back to this one. I had read it down before, but you talked about Darby. Who are your must re-signs this offseason?
Well, like you said, Darby is a must re-sign for me. Trying to think of it. I think we talked about this a bunch on the show. And I did not start out the year anticipating that I would be on the re-signed sheriff contract. I think I am. I think I've
Yeah.
moved there. The last time we had an all-pro player he was the punter.
Yeah,
in
Matt Turk.
92. That's
Yeah,
right.
Matt Turk. Yeah.
Just because he got all-pro doesn't mean that I think that he should be re-signed. But he stayed relatively healthy. That was the biggest thing for the last couple of years. He couldn't stay healthy, other than missing a couple games this year, which it happens. He played really well. And when you think about a team that doesn't have a whole lot of blue chip players, and we're getting there, but I think you've got to re-sign him. And really, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, I think that's kind of it. Maybe Kevin Pierre-Louis is not re-signed. Maybe you want to throw him a couple bucks and see if he won't stick around. He played well. I don't think he's a must re-sign. I don't think Ryan Anderson will be back. I don't think that Kerrigan will be back. Sprinkle's on the list. I don't think he'll be back.
Ugh.
So, I mean, of the big names, I mean, I think that's kind of it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I think those two that you mentioned, those are the must re-sign. And I like what KPL did too. His durability there, and kind of going off on a tangent. I think the most opportunist on the team, as far as a linebacker goes, was John Bostic, because any big play that you needed, it was always John Bostic. But
I personally got a love-hate relationship with John Bostic. You know what I mean? He had some great games, and then he make you say, "Goodness, we got to spend number 19 on a middle linebacker." So,
Cooley would give him up the road all the time on Sheen's podcast.
He's the Kyle Allen of linebackers, right? I mean, I'd love him to be my backup middle linebacker. I'm not necessarily sure I'm sold on him being, he's not Luke Kuechly, put it that way.
Oh man, you mentioned the draft here. What are you doing with 19? Are you holding? Are you going to trade? Are you going to trade back? Are you going to trade forward? Or
I'd love to trade the pick for a quarterback, frankly.
Okay.
I mean, I would love to get Stafford or Watson, like I said, in the off season. If that doesn't happen, I mean, I would assume that they've been doing best player available. And it sounds so cliche to say, it sounds like you're kicking the can, passing the buck, but it's really not, because we're in the position to take offensive tackle. We're in the position. I mean, other than D end and D tackle, I'd suggest we're in the market to take anything. So I do think that they want a premier middle linebacker. So if a guy like Micah Parsons should happen to fall, I guess you're looking at something like that. I would think that maybe a guy like Kadarius Toney from Florida to play receiver might be there. I mean, I haven't looked at the safeties yet to know kind of who's going to be there. We'll talk to Thor Nystrom on Friday, who kind of does this kind of stuff leading up to the Senior Bowl, and see what he thinks. But that's kind of where I'm at. I guess on Alex Leatherwood, or the kid who's the Darrisaw. Is that the kid from Virginia Tech?
Think so, yeah.
I would be thinking that they're looking for an upgraded tackle, although Cornelius Lucas, you talk about guys that really earned some money to me. I mean, he was fantastic. I don't. So again, and I think that was the one thing Standing said, and I think it goes for a couple of positions. The nice thing about a guy like Kyle Allen, and maybe it's the same thing with Lucas, is it doesn't make you feel like you have to in the draft. You know what I mean? And that's kind of a good thing. That's a good position to be in, because then you're not forcing yourself to overdraft anywhere, because that's how you get yourself fired if you're a front office man, for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I I really don't know. 19 is such just a weird. I call it like the friend zone pick because you're not really dating them, but you're not really. You've got one foot in the door, but you got one out. So that's what that is to me. But I will, and I'll wrap it up with this last question, which is unrelated to our team. Well, kind of indirectly. Who is going to win Super Bowl 55 and why?
Well, you must be playing with somebody else's money if you'd bet against Tom Brady, but Patrick Mahomes is just so good. It's not just Patrick, it's the weapons that they have. I mean, it's just they have built that team the way every team is building their teams in the NFL, right? And really, in fairness to Jay, he got trashed a lot, but it was the same thing Jay always wanted. Little shifty guys all over the field as fast as I can get, and we'll get them the ball and let them do what they do. So I don't know. I think somebody told me the other day, and I'd totally forgotten this. Patrick Mahomes is a D4 offensive side 3 years ago from being in the
three in a row. Yep.
Three in a row. Wow. I don't know. And that's really true. I don't know. I'll take Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs just because I don't know. If Tampa can score again, you got to score 35, right? I mean, the one thing that I think is really awesome about the whole thing is they should put on a hell of a show 2 Sundays from now, which I don't think we expected the last couple. Lots of offense all over the place. It should be a really good game, but I don't know if we're here making predictions 2 weeks out. I'll take Tampa Bay 31-27, something like that.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I think we're going to see an offensive explosion. I don't know. It's just slow. It's just to see these two guys. And it's a passing of the torch. Tom Brady. I think he can legitimately submit his future as the best because nobody else outside of Peyton Manning
He's 43-3 for over 4,000 yards this year. I mean, it's just insane.
It just doesn't make sense. And with Tom Brady, he can him and Peyton Manning, I think, can be the only 2 quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl with 2 different franchises. And I think it cements his legacy.
The third. Kurt Warner did as well.
He won 1, remember, but he went to 3.
He went to 2.
With
2 different teams, right? The Cardinals.
That's right. Yep, he went to. But and I got another question for you. I just thought about this because I was listening to Mike Wise and everything on your show. And for the folks who might not have heard it, what is your preferred name? Do you like the football team, or do you want to have a legitimate name? And what I think football team's a legitimate name, but do you want like some kind of mascot to go?
I've been on this one for a while. I think Washington football team is fine. Washington football club, whatever. I know people don't like the club. It sounds English Premiership League-ish. But I've always said, I think if all 32 teams rebranded tomorrow, nobody would name it after a person, That's I think animals, somebody's going to be mad about that. I personally would stick with Washington football team. And you go by the burgundy and gold because we've been doing that for years anyway, right? So, I mean, to me, that's the easiest way. I like the numbers on the helmet. I would stick with that. I think it's really cool and nobody else does it. It would be nice if all the teams in the district had the same color scheme, but I'd never give up burgundy and gold, right? Because we're literally the only team in the league that has it. So I think that's what I do. I would say the Washington football team. I would go by burgundy and gold. And I don't know if they want to come up with some kind of mascot, that's fine. I mean, Mike, I get what Mike was saying that young kids like mascots and it's easier to sell that way. To me, winning sells. If the team wins another 9, say they win 9 games next year, 10 games and win another division, I don't think anybody's going to care that they're anything other than the Washington football team. And you know what's really easy to call the team? The football team. It's not that hard.
And what's even better than calling them a football team? Winners. That's at the end of the time. Yeah, champs. There you go. We've been depressed of that for a long time. I'm 30. I've never seen a Super Bowl. I've never seen a Super Bowl. I was alive for one when we beat Buffalo in '92. But at the end of the day, a football team is going to get us where I want to go and where everybody else wants to go. So be it. And it's great to make fun of people who say, you don't have a name. I'm like, that's all right, though. We beat y'all, though.
We're called champs this year.
There you go. That's right. But Doug, I appreciate you being so gracious with your time, my friend. And we might have to do this again sometime. I had a great time chopping it up with you and maybe just talking DC sports next time. But thank you again. Everybody go check him out. Follow him on Twitter. It's I've got your Twitter up here. It's at Big Doug Show. That'll be in the description. And follow him here on YouTube. That's also in the description as well. But thank you so much, sir, for being here tonight.
Corey, the pleasure was mine. This was great. I had a ton of fun today, and let me know anytime. We'd love to come back and do it.
Yes, sir. I've got a couple of pointers I need to get from you as well when we get off of here. But y'all, I'm Sanchez 405. I love you guys. I appreciate it. Shout out to the ISN. Love, peace, and hail. And I'll be talking to y'all real soon. Guess what? I'm out.